What is up, guys? My name is Pocketcraft, and today we're going to be talking about the top 3 anti-meta decks in the Pokemon TCG online game. And just a quick clarifier, this is all my opinion, and so it's totally fine if you guys have a different opinion. Feel free to put it down in the comment section down below what you think the best anti-meta decks are. And so to talk about the top 3 anti-meta decks, we have to talk a little bit about what meta is and what the meta decks are. So meta, for those of you who don't know, is basically just the decks that are used most often, right? The things you see most often in the game. And so if you want to start winning and maybe you don't know how to play very well yet, if you go with one of these decks, you should be able to win just because they counter the meta pretty well. So you'll be able to win every once in a while. So right now, the meta, if we're being honest, is basically Charizard decks. 2 of the Charizard decks are used like pretty much every other match. You'll run into one of those. The Rillaboom deck is really popular. And then there's a couple other ones that are fairly popular, like the Zazamenta deck. Soaring Storm is very popular. And so we're going to talk about the main anti-meta decks. Now, if we're being honest, all 3 of these should be water decks just because we're going for the Charizard. But we're not going to do that because that would be kind of useless because you really only need one water deck and you can counter all of them. And so we'll start off with some non-water decks. I think a really great one is Laser Focus will be number 3. This one is a really good base deck. It has a lot of good uses. There's some really good strategies you can set up with Necrozma, Savali, and then Malamar is a pretty good ability where you can put Psychic Energies from your discard pile to one of your bench Pokemon. It's a really good setup. And this one you can handle most people. If you don't really like that one, a good alternative is Mach Strike. Is also a very easy one with Ascension, Lucario's ability. It's a really great one. And so you can win a lot of fights with these 2, and they're not weak to any of the really main ones that you'll see a lot. Now, for the second one, I think we're probably going to go with Soaring Storm. Rillaboom deck is great. However, you run into so many fire decks that you have to concede so many different times just because you're at a type disadvantage. But Soaring Storm is really, really good. There are very few decks that really counter it. Some of the fighting ones can do pretty well against it. But you got a lot of diversity here, and it's just a really, really powerful deck. Really easy to learn how to play with. It's a great deck overall. And so I'm going to put that for number 2. But now for number 1, the one we really care about, what are the best ones that if you just buy this deck, you're probably going to start winning more often? I'm going to go with, there's 2 options here. They're both going to be water decks. I think number 1 is probably the Intellion theme deck. This one is great, and that's because most things have such a low energy cost. For example, Intellion, the main Pokemon of the deck, it only needs 2 energy to use its main attack, and it doesn't lose any energy. The only one that really takes a while to set up is Dreadnought, but he's pretty powerful. And then Kingler is an evolved Pokemon. They usually get pretty often, and he can use his first attack with only 1 energy. And so this is really awesome because if you're going against one of the Charizard decks, which you will a lot, you can almost immediately have a fairly powerful water attack that'll do double damage. So even if it only does like 40 or 50, it'll end up doing 80 or 100 damage because it's super effective. And so if you're going against one of the Charizard decks, which you will pretty often, or even the Cinderace deck, which is pretty good, but also fairly popular, then the Intellion theme deck is going to do very well. And now the other option, I would say, if you don't like the Intellion theme deck, would be Torrential Cannon with Blastoise. This deck is awesome. It's definitely got a little bit more strategy to it than I think the Intellion deck does, and it takes a little bit longer to set up, probably, but it's a really, really good deck. You'll still win a lot against the other Charizard decks and everything, obviously, because you have the type advantage, and it's a really good deck. The only one with this one is it does take a little bit longer to set up. And the one thing I like about the Intellion deck is it's all water Pokemon. So when you're going against the main fire meta decks, you're super effective against all their fire Pokemon no matter what you have. But this deck, it has a couple Pokemon that aren't water types. And now there's still really good Pokemon. For example, Pidgeotto's ability is great. And so there's still some really good Pokemon. And this deck is a very viable option. But I would recommend the Intellion theme deck. But it's up to you. But if you guys have enjoyed this, please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel if you're new. I'm really pushing towards 1,000 subscribers, and I could really use your guys' support. But thank you so much, and I hope you guys all have a fantastic rest of your day.